Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, conference edition. In this podcast, we spotlight upcoming ColdFusion conferences and talk to organizers, workshop trainers, and speakers to uncover all the information you and your company needs to decide what conferences and workshops to attend and what sessions you need to see. Welcome to Modernize or Die Conference Edition, and today we have special guest Luis Majano speaking about his workshop at Into the Box. So, what is the workshop about, Luis?
Hey, Gavin, how are you?
Good.
So, the workshop is called ColdBox Hero to Superhero, and this came about from spawning a more advanced version of what you and Eric did with the Zero to Hero edition. So what we decided to do was create a more advanced workshop. So that's why we called it Hero to Superhero. And we wanted to introduce different types of Hero to Superhero. So in this case, this is called Hero to Superhero API Edition. So that means that we're going to be completely creating an API from scratch. We're going to be securing the API. We're going to be leveraging JWT tokens for security. And we're going to build a nice little object model. We're going to use QB as our query builder. So there's a lot of advanced things that we're going to be working with. We're going to be creating modules. So the API will be versioned. We're going to be using interceptors. So it takes us from what you learned in the Zero to Hero and then move to the next step, right? And like I said, we're going to have multiple editions. I think right now I'm actually working on an inertia version. So this way, you're going to be able to work with Vue.js and ColdBox in the Hero to Superhero Inertia edition. But this case, this is the API edition.
Very cool. So why do you think this workshop is important for developers to take? Why do we create this?
Well, I think that, and that's a great question. I think that was the main driving force behind creating this workshop. Nowadays, we live in a world of APIs, right? You know this. We've been creating lots of APIs, and really, ColdFusion has kind of become this great source of creating APIs. And Vue.js and Angular and React have become this amazing front end portions, right, for building our apps. So I think in the day and age that we live, it is really important for us to learn API techniques, for learn how to version APIs, to learn how to build APIs that are sustainable, that are scalable, right? And that we can focus on that portion instead of the concerns of the view layers, right? Which comes with their own baggage and with their own issues and with their own techniques. But I think that was the main driving force, is that right now we live in an API-driven world. It is important for developers to understand how to build them, how to manage them, how to make their lives easier, right? With all the different things that we built into ColdBox and all its ecosystem, right? To help you facilitate to build better APIs.
And obviously, you mentioned in the first part that to build them securely, because we've got to do it right. And so instead of learning the hard lessons, we're trying to give you the tools and modules we've built to make our life easier. Because I know that this was a really demanded workshop. A lot of people said, "What's next? We really, we need something more than Zero to Super ColdBox Hero to Zero. We want to figure out what's next." And the thing we do the most for people is building APIs, and we've learned a lot of lessons. We've done a lot of reading on JWT security and everything lately. Done a lot of research, haven't we? So, I think that's a big thing to remember too. Is this is very important, and we're using best practices from our experience, but also other languages, other frameworks, and everything too. So we bring that all to you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that that's a very important lesson, is that we at Ortus, we don't look at only ColdFusion. We not only look at Java, we dabble in many languages. And for us, it's really important to see what's out there in any language. When we built the ColdBox security update for the major release of 2.0, we looked at how Java did it. We looked at several PHP frameworks. We looked at several Python frameworks. We looked at even Ruby on Rails just to get inspiration from all the different types of implementations and try to bring the best to what our language can shine with, right? And that's why CB Security 2 was born. And I think that's really important, is to know that there are so many. That's what makes ColdBox, I would say, very, very unique and very powerful, is that we have a complete ecosystem built around it, right? With modularity and modules provided through the hierarchical MVC. And this basically makes the framework be so light nowadays. I mean, this is not like the ColdBox 2 days, right? Where everybody said, oh, it's so big. No. I mean, ColdBox right now, it's in the kilobytes, right? It's really tiny, really fast and performant. And then we built this entire modular ecosystem around it for all the functionality you might want to do, right? And we keep popping modules left and right here because of all the things that we're working on, right? And this is how we're going to be building this course, complete hands-on, interacting with over 10 or 15 modules, I believe, and one specifically, which is important, which is the security aspect, right? And I think that's something that I failed to mention, Gavin, which I might slap myself because of it, is that I didn't mention that everything will be created using behavior-driven development. So we're going to be creating everything based on behavior and unit tests from the ground up. So when you leave this workshop, you will have the entire application with, I think the last time we ran this, it was 100% test code coverage. That's what Brad ran last time. So it will be completely covered in tests and from the start, right? It's not like we're going to build it and then we're going to do the tests. No, we're going to do it right. We're going to do it exactly how at least BDD demands it, from the behavior, from the stories, and then down into implementation. So this will be a great chance for you to put those skills to the test and learn them.
So here's a softball pitch for you for a question. Why are you the right person to lead this workshop?
Ooh, why? Well, I think that the right question is because I built the whole training.
You built ColdBox, you built CB Security, you did the training. Yeah, pretty good reason.
Yeah, so I'm the right person in this case because I wrote everything. So if it actually fails and blows up, there's nobody to blame except me. Right.
You heard it here first.
But yeah. So I think that for me, I love the trainings. I love being able to be with people and teach. I'm passionate about this, and for me, it's an educational experience because I learn a lot from all the different ways that developers create applications, or they use the framework in several ways that I never imagined they would use it. And that is to me super important, to be in the trenches with the developers, because then it feeds back. It creates this awesome feedback loop that then we can actually continue to evolve ColdBox, to evolve the testing portions and improve our trainings. So for me, I love to be in the trenches, and I love to be able to have an interactivity with the actual developers implementing these tools.
And the other thing, too, is the first time you taught this class was actually in Spanish, right? So you've taught it a few times, different languages, and then I know Brad's taught it as well. So as he was at Vegas with you teaching it, and then he did it at CF Camp. So this isn't a one-off. You're not guinea pigs here. We've done this a few times, and we've made improvements to it. But I know everyone in Vegas, because we were doing the hero to zero downstairs, and we came upstairs to the hero to superhero, and we were chatting with everybody, and they all loved it. So I think you're definitely the right person.
Yeah. So this is we've given this course a few times. The first push was in Spanish. Actually, it was for a conference in Malaga in Spain. It was the open source initiatives there, and it was. I had actually half a day to actually give this course. So it was very, very condensed, but it was good because it was a great start of something that sparked off. And I didn't even have CB Security at that time, right? So the initial course version was just with the first version of CB Security, right? So all JWT was done manually and stuff like that, but now we've really made it super easy for developers to integrate with JWT. And like you mentioned, we still have ways to go, right? We talked about session rotation. In the last update, actually, we introduced secret rotation, not session rotation, sorry, secret rotation automatically. It's a very simplistic approach, but it's introduced. And we're working on the refresh tokens, which actually we have to meet, Gavin. So we have to remember to do this afterwards. But yeah, I think that we're constantly improving it and taking feedback from the community to improve it.
Sounds good. So what level or expectations do you have for attendees before they come? Obviously, we're taking them from hero to superhero. So, what sort of the prereqs they need to have to be comfortable and to get the most out of the training?
Correct. I think in this prerequisite, for prerequisites, I would say that you need to know intermediate cold fusion, right? You need to be able to understand what components are, object orientation, right? You cannot be there and like, how do I create a component? No, you have to have that intermediate knowledge. I would say basic ColdBox knowledge is pushing it. I would love for you to have actually worked or created at least one ColdBox application, but it's not necessary, mostly because everything is documented for you. So even if this is the first time that you work with ColdBox, if you're sharp, you could pick it up. We've had this before in our students, but I could honestly say that if you're going to take this course and you haven't worked with ColdBox, that's okay. We have several online trainings. We have several videos. Go through them. Start creating a little blog application, something to get your curiosity started in how ColdBox works. We have the Getting Started guide. We have a 60-minute guide. Right? I think those will really leverage you to start working with this. I'm also mentioned in the workshop that we use Docker, but you don't have to be a Docker expert. I mostly just tease you with how easy it is to actually work with Docker. In the last course we did in Vegas, we actually containerized our API. So we had some time off and we were able to use Docker to create an image and then deploy it. So if we have time, I'd love to be able to do that. So, but prerequisites, I would say intermediate cold fusion, beginner to intermediate ColdBox, right? And then Docker newbie for sure. And then I would say, since we're going to be using SQL and a lot, you need to know SQL, right? And you need to work with a database. We're going to be working with MySQL in this case, right? It's not necessary, right, to do just MySQL. You could be MS SQL. I know there was a guy that was using MS SQL, but I would say between MS SQL and MySQL, don't be using anything like Oracle or anything weird, right? But I think that those would be my suggestions for prerequisites.
Okay, and obviously I'm teaching the zero to hero course, the workshop at the same time. So if you guys don't think you're quite up to it, take my training first, and then hopefully we'll be doing this training again, probably at CF Summit later in the year. So there's other opportunities to take it, but we just want to make sure that you guys don't struggle, because we do a lot of hands-on. We want to make sure that Luis will show you some stuff and then you'll do it. So if you're really struggling with ColdBox, we want you to get the most out of the workshop. So, that's why the prerequisites are important. So,
yes.
Okay. So I know you talked a little bit about what they're going to learn, but you want to give us a little more detail. What people will get out of this when they leave this workshop? What will they have learned? What will they be able to do?
I think this is very different from the traditional trainings we've done in the past, right? And I think this is where we find more success, which is where people are actually coding, right? In some cases, yes, you have to teach theory, right? But we're moving more into more hands-on and a little bit less theory, right? And trying people to figure things out and try to people to actually, hit a wall and try to discover how to fix it, right? So these trainings, these hero to superheroes and zero to heroes are focused on that, right? We're focusing on really hands-on for the developers, right? So they're going to be able to take everything that they've learned and apply it on their own time if they wanted to. So even if they get behind and are not following the pace, it's no problem, right? They can go back. They have all the workshop notes. They have all the source code, and they can do this on their own. Right, which is really, really important, because when you go to other types of trainings where it's just theory, how can you take that home, right? Unless you have a booklet, and the booklet contains slides and contains, lots of text, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember this anymore, right? So this is a big advantage of these types of workshops, right? You're going to be able to take this knowledge and apply it at a later point in time. Okay. The second approach is that we're big on tests, right? We want to make sure that you can create an application from scratch using best practices, right? And this is with testing in mind, right? We apply both behavior-driven development and test-driven development, right? And when I mention behavior-driven development, it's mostly because we're going to be focused on the behavior of the application, right? Requirements of the application. This could be things like, I want to be able to log in to the API and receive a JWT token. That's a story, right? That needs to be fulfilled, right? And then you do some implementation to make sure that story is fulfilled. And then we're also going to work with unit testing, right? We can create a canary test, right? Can I create my components, right? Can I create my services, right? So these all types of tests are important, right? And all of them contribute to the actual code coverage of your application, right? And we will be using Fusion Reactor in kind of development mode, so you can actually see code coverage, right? We did that in the last one, and that was a huge help for some of the developers to be able to see as they code, how much coverage they have in terms of their application. And that gives a lot of confidence. It boosts developers. Some of the developers in our last workshop were like, oh my God, I have never worked like this in my life, they would say. And they were so excited and they were so into testing that it was a great moment that we should have filmed them because we could have used that video, right, to attest that developers do get excited about testing. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think testing is fun. It's just time is the issue. The time and the pressure. Because I love to write tests, but, it's the deadlines and, that. But
and you know what? The thing is that's such a misconception, because ultimately, how do you prove that the feature that you built works?
Yeah.
How do you prove it, right?
Yeah. I mean, you have test it manually. Yeah.
Manually, but that's the problem, right? So what we want is automation, right? Yeah. So you're going to have to test it manually no matter what. So you're going to have to lose that time no matter what, right? And sometimes developers actually ended up even building complete UIs just to test a single feature, right? And that's what we don't want. We want to be able to accelerate developers. And in this case, since we're building an API, it's fantastic because you're not going to even use a browser.
Yep.
Right? Everything will be from the IDE, right? Just from your coding IDE, you're going to be able to test everything and build your entire API, right? So that is really helpful because you will see that testing, once you fill that gap of knowledge, it will accelerate you because it will give you confidence. You will be a master of those tools, and you don't even need to build UIs, right, to validate some of the backend things that you're building, right? So the misconception is that I don't have time for this, right? This is too difficult. But most of that expressions come from the self-doubt that you have, right? That I don't know my tools good enough, right, to basically accelerate. And we all have them, right? And I think that sometimes the best comparison that I saw was in my last conference was that sometimes we have like a little angel in one area and then a little devil, a little demon in our other area. And our angel always says, go test, right? But then the little demon says, why? You have more stuff to do, right? So it's this constant battle, right, that we have to have between our good side of good developers, right, and sometimes the oppression that we feel to just go the easy route, and that will never go away, right? That will never go away. You will always have that battle and that dichotomy, right, of the two sides of the equation. So I'm with you, Gavin, and we all go through it, right?
Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously they're going to learn about a lot of different modules too. CB security will be a big focus and everything, but it sounds like they're going to learn a lot. So, yeah. What's the favorite part about this workshop? You said you enjoy teaching it. So what do you get out of this the most,
I think for my favorite part, being selfish, I love this because it pushes me to learn. Right? And it pushes me to exercise everything that we build to make sure it works, right? In every area. right? And it pushes me to doubt and to question everything that we build and say, is this easy enough for developers? Is this robust enough for developers, right? And then when you present it to your peers in this training format, you get so much feedback. I mean, so much feedback, ideas spark, and people ask, like, why not this? Or why haven't you done refresh tokens, right? I want to do refresh tokens this way, right? Or why is this not rotating? Why do I have to create a secret? So I think that the value of a training course, even though people pay you to actually come learn, I think it's also important because it actually, there's this untouchable gain that you have, right? Which is the knowledge that you receive, the knowledge that you can bring back to the team, the feedback that you can bring back to the team, right? And so I think that for me, these workshops are extremely beneficial. And this year alone, I want to do even more than we have done in the past. I think that last year was not that big of a year in trainings. I want to focus a lot more on trainings this year because they really help out to push forward all our software.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like we get, sort of used to working with all these modules and tools and everything. You forget those little stumbling blocks you hit when you first begin. And so getting someone's fresh perspective on it can really help open your eyes to it and like, oh yeah, we could make this easier. Or, oh, that doesn't make sense. What can we do to make this better? So I definitely agree. That's definitely some big feedback there. And obviously, meeting a lot of developers and making new friends is all part of it too. So
yeah, definitely.
It's a great experience. So, well, very cool. So at Into the Box May in Houston, we have this 2-day workshop that Luis is doing. And it is a 2-day workshop. So don't forget, if you do this workshop, this is your only workshop for the conference, but that's okay because you get 2 days. So you get lots of Luis, lots of time to do a lot of coding and actually come out at the end of it with an API and maybe even a Dockerized one if you guys are quick. So, so a lot of good workshops. And again, the Zero to Hero workshop that I'm doing, we're going to be putting that on at the same time. So if you're not quite comfortable enough to take on this API edition one with Luis, you have the other option there. And there's some other great workshops too. But you can go register online now at intothebox.org, sign up, and then you get 2 days of workshops and 2 days of conference content, and it's going to be a great time. So thanks very much, Luis, for coming and speaking to us today about the workshop. And we'll be excited to attend. It's coming up quick. So,
oh yeah.
So
time flies. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Gavin. Appreciate it. And thankfully, you guys have a better insight of this workshop and come and spend some time with me in these 2 days. It will be very edifying, and I will definitely challenge you.
Very cool. Thanks again, Luis. Have a great one, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.
Show notes for this episode can be found on conference.modernizeordie.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube playlist to find more videos just like this. Music from this podcast are used under a royalty-free license from sound.com and bluetreeaudio.com.